Hello, this is Mrs. Garple, and in this video I am going to cover how we state or define intervals of increase, intervals of decrease, maximum, minimum, domain, and range. So intervals of increase, that's going to be intervals of x, where we see the graph increasing. If I look at this particular graph, it is only increasing on this part. This portion is increasing. And that is for x values from 15 to 19. Now, as an interval, the 15 is also used at the end of this constant interval. So I'm going to use a parenthesis in front of the 15. I'm going to write the 19, which is where it ends, but I'm going to use a square bracket. And that's because my graph ends when x is 19. That 19 isn't shared with another interval. When I look for intervals of decrease, I'm looking for where my graph is decreasing. So I have a section right here. But I also have another section right here. The sections not identified are constant, so there is no rate of change. There's no change in value. So I have to write two sets of intervals. I'm going to start with the first one, the one that begins at 0 and ends at the x value of 4. So the 0 is where my graph starts. So I'm going to have a square bracket in front of that 0. And the 4 is going to have a parenthesis behind it, because that 4 is part of the constant interval that follows. My next interval of decrease begins at 7 and goes to 10. Now both of these values are used for other intervals. So we're going to write those with parentheses around both of them. We have a maximum value. We're looking for the y value. What's the largest y value we see in the graph? Well, the highest point on our graph actually shows up twice. Where the graph starts and where the graph ends is our largest value. So we can say that we have a maximum of 10. The minimum is going to be the lowest point of our graph, or the lowest value. Again, that's a y value, and I see it in this interval that's constant, and it has a minimum of 1. Domain is the set of x values. So I want to look on my graph. I know I start at 0 and my last x value is at 19. I'm going to write this as an interval. It's a continuous interval from 0 to 10 with brackets around both values. The range is the set of y values. So this time we actually want to look at what are the values of y that we use in the graph. All you need to do is take the values we used for maximum and minimum, and you'll have your range. When you write the range, you always start with the lower value, the 1, and then you write the upper value. And I just realized I wrote the wrong value for domain here. So it's 1 to 10 for range, but 0 to 19 for the domain. So domain is x values. And the range is y values. And this concludes my video on how you identify the different features of the graph of a function.